Ash's Greninja is an anomaly, a beast that we've never seen before, and there are very few Pokemon that have been able to fundamentally change the franchise like this one. This is the story on Ash's Greninja, who was once an all-star pick, rose, fell, and rose to greater heights. But to understand all this, we have to take it back all the way to the Kalos region before Greninja was even a Greninja, where he was just a lonely Froakie. When Froakie first hatched from his egg, he was already very different from his group. While everyone else was having fun and partying, Froakie just wanted to train and get stronger. At first glance, the other Froakies thought our Froakie was just a little weird and just enjoyed training a lot, but these differences eventually turned into hate. They were so scared of the unknown that they decided to kick Froakie out of the group, leaving him out in the wild to be all alone. Some time has passed and Froakie has somehow made it to Professor Sycamore's lab, but there's one other issue with this Froakie. Whenever Professor Sycamore gives him out to a brand new trainer, Froakie always ends up getting returned or abandoned by that previous trainer. This is because Froakie believes he has such high potential that he won't let it be wasted by mediocre trainers, so he'll continue waiting at the lab until he finds someone worthy of his power. Some time has passed and that leads us to the first episode of the Pokemon X and Y anime, where Ash is landing into the Kalos region. And I gotta be honest for a second, this has to be one of Ash's best character designs yet. He looks so mature for his age compared to previous seasons, and this new design is actually quite telling on why Froakie gravitated towards Ash. Because while Ash was walking through the Kalos region, Froakie was following him within the shadows, and when Ash got into a battle with Team Rocket and Pikachu almost got hit by a devastating attack, Froakie jumped in the way, tanking the attack for Pikachu, wanting to help Ash. They ended up defeating Team Rocket, but Froakie was in critical condition, and they rushed him over to the professor's lab. And at this lab, Ash learned the truth. Professor Sycamore told Ash that this Froakie has actually been abandoned by its last trainer and really doesn't trust humans all that much and only wants to be raised by a strong trainer. Ash believed that Froakie was actually a good Pokemon and that he just needed the right opportunity to unlock his true potential, and this was proven even further where Team Rocket stole Professor Sycamore's Garchomp and he started tweaking out, but Froakie in the end ended up saving the day, protecting the Garchomp. Because of all this, Froakie realized Ash's love for Pokemon and realized that Ash would actually be a worthy trainer for him, and Ash thought likewise, and ever since then, Froakie joined Ash's team, being one of his aces. And you would think from here that the story goes smooth sailing, with them becoming the best of friends, but the story actually gets so much more complicated. Since Froakie has actually never worked within a team, he actually struggled a lot with teamwork, especially in the early episodes, where Froakie would not listen to Ash's instructions and always just do what he sees fit. This behavior actually costed Froakie a battle against a fletchling, destroying his self-confidence because he knew he had the power to win the battle, but he just lost because of his own thoughts. And when Froakie applied this, he became better than ever, being able to defeat this fletchling in a rematch. And with all that being said and done, Froakie ended up enjoying his time on Ash's team and made some pretty good friends. But what Froakie didn't realize is that he was creating even greater rivals. One of the rivals that were brewing up was this ninja that said Ash's Froakie was actually slow and he had a Frogadier himself, and he said his Frogadier was way more faster and better than Ash's Froakie. Ash didn't take this lightly and challenged him to a battle, and that's when they learned real quick that they are not on top. They got absolutely destroyed. They got beat so bad they were pretty bummed out about it, but the ninja actually offered to train Froakie, which they did. They taught Froakie how to be more agile on water, be more stealth, and overall become a better Pokemon, and they said they'll meet them again and hope that Froakie gotten stronger. Taking all this info in, you would think Froakie would put his head down and try to become stronger than that Frogadier, but Froakie actually made a brand new rival on his own team. In a later episode, there was a Hawlucha that Ash wanted to catch, so he sent out Froakie, and they got into a very heated battle, which resulted into a draw. Ash still ended up catching Hawlucha, but Froakie just didn't want to work with Hawlucha, and Hawlucha did not respect Froakie at all. Ash even took them out in a double battle, and they completely lost it, bickering against each other and did not work together. Ash realized this wasn't working, and it wasn't until Ash's life was in danger the two Pokemon actually teamed up, set their differences aside, and realized that they could work together. So we now managed to get an established team, and Froakie's looking pretty good, but later in the timeline, Ash meets the ninja trainer again, finding him going down a river unconscious. When they wake him up, they realize that he actually has a Greninja now, not a Frogadier. They ask Ash for their help to defeat the Barbaracle, so Greninja and Froakie put their differences aside and team up to fight the Barbaracle. The fight wasn't going the greatest. Greninja Greninja and Froakie teamed up, but they weren't winning at all. Greninja also looked like he was out for the count, and Barbaracle was going in to do the finishing blow on Froakie, but Froakie decided to evolve into Frogadier to be able to destroy the Barbaracle, showing us his true strength and using his new move Razor Shell. At this point, Frogadier became one of the aces on Ash's team. He showed his true potential, being able to defeat an opponent way stronger than him and saving the Greninja. It seemed like Frogadier almost surpassed his rival, but he developed a brand new one in the process. In a later episode, Ash meets a kid named Sawyer, and he sends out his Trico, and Frogadier and Hawlucha versed them in a double battle. Ash's team completely dominated the battle, but the next day Sawyer came back and Trico had evolved into a Grovyle. We got to see how Frogadier would handle an even matchup where he even had the type disadvantage, and Frogadier did not disappoint. He made use of his crazy speed, juking out Grovyle, and finished the battle off with the move Water Pulse. But at the end, Frogadier did give Grovyle his respect, and they mutually respected each other, knowing that someday he would be a very formidable foe. As we continue on with Ash and Greninja's journey, something interesting happened. When they went up against the gym leader Olympia, she had to reveal a revelation that she had. She prophesied that Ash's Greninja is actually special and that he has some dormant power deep inside that he just hasn't awakened yet. She also verbally let Ash know about Greninja's backstory and how he was abandoned when he was younger and looking for a strong trainer his entire life. This motivated Ash a lot, and he resonated with Greninja, knowing his pain, and promised Greninja that he would try his absolute best to make sure that he reaches his full potential and he'll use him in many battles. Funny enough, they went to immediately fight the gym leader after this, and Greninja and Talonflame won in a double battle using a group attack that we haven't seen them use before. After hearing all this from the gym battle, Ash thought it would be pretty smart to get some more information about Greninja, so they went over to the Ninja Village to actually understand what special power Greninja has deep inside. Here we learn that thousands of years ago, there was an ancient Greninja that had a form that people have never seen before, and he used it to protect the village. While we're learning all this, it gets interrupted because the Ninja Village is under attack. There's a big battle outside of the village, and there's a Bisharp going absolutely crazy. Frogadier's rival, Greninja, tries to fight off the Bisharp but gets absolutely destroyed. Ash sends out Frogadier and Pikachu, and they're trying their absolute best to defeat this Bisharp, but nothing is working against him. Bisharp has them all knocked down, and it seemed like it was over. Bisharp was commanded to use Shadow Claw to finish off Pikachu, but Frogadier jumped in the way, blocking the attack and choosing to evolve into Greninja to protect his friends. Greninja learned the move Water Shuriken, which is one of his signature attacks, and fired it off, but something weird started to happen. Ash felt a strong connection between him and Greninja's eyes started glowing red, and they felt even closer than ever. And Greninja had a water aura surrounding him. We couldn't really see his face, but this Greninja had definitely gotten stronger, and little did Ash and Greninja know, this is the first time they would have used Bond Phenomenon. Not much is known about this transformation, but what we do know is that it's only achievable between certain trainers and Pokemon, like a 1 in a million chance. When this transformation happens, the Pokemon and the trainer are one, so much to the point where when the Pokemon takes damage, the trainer takes damage too. Greninja used his newfound power to absolutely destroy the Bisharp and even surpass his old rival, the other Greninja. Everything was looking good from here. Greninja evolved, protect the village, and even unlocked a brand new form. But Greninja's true stories and real challenges were about to unfold in a way they could have never expected. There were a few instances after this where Ash and Greninja would accidentally tap into the form, but they wouldn't really understand what was going on. The form would also put too much of a strain on Ash's body, which would make him pass out from time to time when activating it, which was really dangerous. Clement made a machine, and he discovered that Ash and Greninja need to be fully in sync to be able to master this form. And while they were doing more training on this, Ash ran into Sawyer again, and he had a rematch with his Sceptile. This Sceptile was no joke now. He grew up. He knew a bunch of dragon type moves and Bullet Seed and Razor Leaf. The battle was getting tough for Greninja, but Ash and Greninja felt in sync, activated their Bond Phenomenon, and completely destroyed Sceptile. But this caught the attention of a trainer in the stands, his name being Alon. Alon was completely shocked that a trainer was able to have a Mega Evolution type transformation without a Mega Stone, so he knew he had to challenge Ash to a battle. Alon revealed to Ash that the ace of his team is his Charizard, Mega Charizard X, and he went head to head with Greninja, completely destroying Greninja, forcing him to transform into Ash Greninja form, but they still lost. Ash and Greninja were pretty bummed out about this, so they got back to training to try to master their new form so they could beat Alon, and when they thought they had a good gripe on it, they challenged Alon again. And I've gotta say, up until this point in the anime, this is one of the most intense fights we've seen. Ash and Greninja were seriously going all out against Alon and his Charizard, and it seriously looked like Greninja was gonna win the fight. But when Charizard transformed into Mega Charizard X, he blasted a flamethrower at Greninja, then hit him with a super effective Thunder Punch. This forced the Battle Bond transformation again, and the battle was looking so even. Greninja and Mega Charizard were going head to head. But it all started catching up to Ash. Ash could not withstand the damage Greninja took, and he passed out. He woke up in the hospital with all his friends surrounding him, and they were a little worried, but they were happy that Ash was safe. And Ash told Alon that he wants to battle him again at the Pokemon Kalos League, and Alon said that he'll compete. Ash and Greninja were a little down, so they started doing some more training, and then they ran into the champion of the Kalos region, Diantha. Diantha had caught wind that there was a trainer going around with a Pokemon that had a Mega Evolution-like transformation, and she wanted to see it for herself, so they challenged each other to a battle. Ash and Greninja did not hold back. They activated their bomb phenomenon, having that water aura around them, and they got super fast, and they were actually doing really well up against Diantha's Gardevoir. So Diantha had to respond to this, and she Mega Evolved too. This battle was getting so intense. Gardevoir was throwing out Shadow Balls, Greninja was making Shadow Clones, and this truly felt like a championship level battle. Greninja knew he had to do something if he wanted to win this battle, so he took all the energy from the outside of his body and put it onto his back, turning it into a big water shuriken, revealing his face for the first time. Greninja threw his new water shuriken at Diantha's Shadow Ball and cut right through it. But this newfound power was too much for Ash, and Ash passed out, making them lose the battle. Ash and Greninja's confidence didn't get any better from this loss, since they've been losing a lot recently and they really wanted to get better, and Ash felt deep inside he wasn't a good enough trainer for Greninja. They had a rematch with Sawyer and they actually lost against his Sceptile. They didn't lose because they were weak, they lost because Ash's confidence was very low that he couldn't do the Battle Bond transformation anymore with Greninja. All of this was seriously sending Ash down a spiral, making him question his abilities as a Pokemon trainer as a whole, because days ago he was able to beat Sawyer, but now he's losing to him, and he can't even transform anymore. Ash was developing imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is where someone is feeling anxious and not feeling the success internally, even though to everybody else they're doing really well. Nobody else thought Ash was fraudulent, only him. Ash decided to try to move on, and they went to Snowbell City to get the last gym badge, and when Ash first challenged the gym leader Wulfric, it wasn't going well. Hawlucha had already lost, and Talonflame took a big beating too. It was only left to Greninja. Ash tried to tap into the Battle Bomb form, and it worked. Ash and Greninja got their spark back, right? But even with this transformation, they still ended up taking major attacks from Wulfric and losing ultimately to a Gyro Ball. This sent Ash over the edge. They lost again. Later that night, Ash told Greninja how he is really feeling, how he feels like he was being a big letdown, and he was sorry that he's not capable of mastering the transformation for Greninja. So what Ash did is that he left everybody and went off to the forest alone to think. Greninja also was feeling kind of down too, since Ash and Greninja do share some degree of emotions, and Greninja also went off by himself. While Ash was out in the forest, he was helping a wild Pokemon, and the weather started getting worse, and Greninja and Squishy realized Ash was in trouble. They sensed it. They ended up rushing to Ash's aid, and Ash was falling down a cliff, but Greninja saved Ash at the last second. Ash was so excited that his Pokemon came to his rescue, but Ash also let go of the wild Pokemon, and they needed to save him fast. And in that moment, without any hesitation, Ash and Greninja activated Battle Bond, and Greninja jumped down trying to save the Pokemon, and Ash served as Greninja's vision, and Greninja served as the physical body, being able to save the Pokemon. Ash and Greninja were really happy they were able to save the Pokemon, and Ash came to the realization that the Battle Bond transformation should be treated as one, not like two entities, but one together. Greninja agreed on this, and because of their mutual understanding, they finally mastered Battle Bond. Ash and Greninja went back to challenge Wolfglick, and they versed his Mega Obama-Snow. And in this battle, we saw for the first time Ash and Greninja fully transform into Ash Greninja mode, mastering the Battle Bond and going head-to-head with the 8th Gym Leader's Pokemon, and Greninja came out on top. With all that being said and done, Ash and Greninja got their 8th Gym Badge, and now they're ready for the Kalos League, where all of their rivals will be in one place to prove that they're the best of the best. When Ash entered the tournament, he was already on everyone's radars. A bunch of people would come up to him, even news reporters, wanting to see his new transformation with Greninja that no one's ever seen before, making Ash's battles some of the most viewed ones in the Kalos region. And the people weren't disappointed. Ash got his first round against this kid with an Altaria, and Greninja completely decimated it. All of Ash's friends and rivals were also competing in the Kalos League tournament, and they all had different various challenges. But we finally made it to the semi-finals, one of Greninja's most notable matches. Greninja versus Sceptile. They started off the battle playing no game. Sawyer used Mega Evolution on Sceptile, showing off Sceptile's new form, Mega Sceptile, and he used Frenzy Plant to transform the entire arena with vines. Ash and Greninja used Battle Bond to transform, and they dodged the Frenzy Plant vines and used Cut to destroy them. After dodging a bunch of attacks, Greninja goes in on Sceptile and uses Aerial Ace with some of the smoothest animations we've seen in Pokemon, but Sceptile caught Greninja off guard using Leaf Storm. Greninja and Sceptile fought neck and neck, clashing with Leaf Blade and the Water Shuriken back and forth. Ash was seriously feeling the effects of Greninja taking all this damage onto himself, but Ash knew he had to hold on strong so he doesn't lose the battle. Ash and Greninja were fully synced, being able to dodge all of Sceptile's vines, moving left and right, and they knew they had to go in for a finishing blow. Greninja awakened the Shuriken on his back and jumped high in the sky and used the move Double Team, paying homage to Naruto with a bunch of his shadow clones, and used Rasa and Shuriken. Sceptile tried to block it with Leaf Storm, but it wasn't enough. Greninja's Water Shuriken hit Sceptile, and Ash and Greninja won the battle, even with the type disadvantage. And with this, Greninja ended the long rivalry with Sceptile, coming out on top and being able to move to the finals with Ash versus Alon. Now this battle is very important for Ash. This is his first time ever making it to the finals in the Pokemon League, and it wasn't looking good. Ash was down to his last Pokemon, Greninja. It was Greninja versus Charizard, the fated matchup that was meant to be. Greninja went in knowing he has the type advantage and got a decent cut in on Charizard, and Ash and Greninja took it as seriously as possible and transformed immediately into Ash Greninja. Alon chose to keep the same energy since he knew if he didn't transform now he would lose, and he transformed into Mega Charizard X, also giving him a neutral advantage because Mega Charizard X is not weak to water types anymore. Alon's Charizard went in for a Dragon Claw, and Ash's Greninja went in and clashed against it too, and they were having some of the greatest hand-to-hand combat we've seen yet in this series. Charizard tried to use Thunder Punch to try to one-shot Greninja, but Ash was smart and told Greninja to use Water Shuriken to deflect the Thunder Punches. Greninja got a clean hit against Alon's Charizard and sent him flying all the way back, and Ash knew it was his opportunity to win. Ash told Greninja to use Water Shuriken. Ash and Alon were simultaneously thinking at the same time that no matter who loses, this has been one of the best battles of their entire lives. Then, Ash's Greninja proceeds to make the biggest Water Shuriken we've seen in the entire series. Alon starts getting scared and tells Charizard to use Blast Burn. Greninja lets off his greatest Shuriken, sending it straight at Mega Charizard, and the Blast Burn gets closer to Greninja, and both of the moves hit each of the Pokemon simultaneously. This created a big explosion, and nobody in the entire arena knew what was happening, and then the smoke started to clear up. We could see Ash's Greninja standing tall, and Alon's Charizard almost fall to the ground. But in the moment, Ash's Greninja fell. Ash lost the battle. Even though Ash and Greninja lost, it wasn't like last time. They were actually proud because they gave it their all and they just lost to a better opponent, and Alon was crowned the champion of the tournament. For the gang even had time to relax, Team Flare had an evil plan brewing in the back, and Ash and Greninja were at the core of it because the leader of Team Flare was trying to use Ash and Greninja's battle bond to use for evil purposes, but in the end, Ash and Greninja broke free because of their battle bond, and Alon teamed up with them to defeat Team Flare. But we did have an issue with the giant rock shaped like Zygarde trying to destroy the entire world, and all of the champions that were here at this point ended up teaming together to defeat the big rock. Because of all this, Ash's Greninja and Alon's team were named the Heroes of Kalos because they did save the world from this Zygarde. It was looking really good for Ash and Greninja. Even though they didn't win the Pokemon Championship, they did end up saving the world, which was a plus. But something came up. Greninja could actually sense that the evil roots were still popping up around Kalos, and Squishy actually suggested if Greninja could go on a journey with them to help cut down the rocks from time to time so that another evil phenomenon doesn't develop or old Team Flare members don't take advantage of this situation. Ash was really hurt after hearing this news, but he knew Greninja would be serving a much greater purpose, constantly saving the lives of others than coming back to Kanto with him. So Ash and Greninja said farewell. They gave each other a handshake and gave each other a big hug, and Ash promised to meet them again. And we didn't see Ash's Greninja for a very long time in the Pokemon animes, not until Pokemon Journeys. In Pokemon Journeys, Ash had a Lucario and he was having a bit of trouble tapping into his aura and sometimes Mega Evolution. So Ash thought it would be a good idea to make Lucario meet up with Greninja since he felt the same type of energy back then with Lucario. When we make it to the Kalos region, we can actually see the evil vines are still infecting their region, and out of nowhere, Ash's Greninja appears back again and meets up with Ash and Lucario, saving them from the vines. Ash is so happy to see Greninja again, and he actually asks Greninja for a favor, if he can 1v1 him and Lucario, and help train Lucario so he doesn't have any self-doubt about his ability. Greninja agrees to help out Ash, and they get right to the battle. Lucario realizes very quickly he's outmatched for Ash's Greninja, and he completely loses it. Lucario ends up getting really sad and runs away, but when Ash wants to go after Lucario, Greninja says he'll take you from here and talk to Lucario. Lucario and Greninja end up having a heart-to-heart conversation, which I wish I could tell you what they were saying, but they literally just talked in Pokemon language, so I can only assume that he was giving him good advice. The advice Greninja gave Lucario was so good because Lucario was able to respect Greninja after this point and no longer be jealous of him. And the training paid off because when Lucario met back up with Ash, he was able to learn Aura Spear and do a really big attack. By the end of all this, Ash completed his original mission on trying to get Lucario to tap in with his aura energy, and Ash thanked Greninja and they were off saying farewell again. And that seemed to be it for Greninja. He headed off and Ash tells Go that even if him and Greninja are far apart, Ash will always have a strong connection with Greninja to know if he's well. Greninja definitely has one of the more complex stories in the Pokemon anime, starting off from a little Froakie and becoming a world-class Pokemon. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any more Pokemon lore, and let me know down below who you want to see next.